Hey guys, this is Wayne from Making Wayne Audio, and today I'm going to be dropping my second video, and we're going to be talking about the FatFreq X HBB Deuce. You might be wondering if that was an intentional pun. It was. That's what this channel is all about. I am very, very mature. But yeah, talking about the Deuce today, and we're going to be going over a few things with regards to the build, the fit. I'm going to talk about some behind-the-scenes stuff that's been happening with FatFreq. If you've been following the Deuce's release, you've known that there's been some launch concerns with the build quality, the shipment, and stuff like that. So I'm going to talk about my experience specifically with the Deuce. And then, of course, talk about the sound because that's important. This is an audio review, so yeah, that's kind of a huge part of it. But yeah, let's get into it. First, this is a collab between FatFreq and HBB, or Hawaii Bad Boy. If you aren't following him, you probably want to go check his video out. He did an unboxing. He's talked about the Deuce. He's talked about the inspiration for the Deuce, so that might be a good idea to kind of go refresh yourself a little bit there. FatFreq's been around since 2016. They first started off by doing IEM repairs and mods. They have branched out to 4 different signature lines. You have the Signature series, the Reference series, the Musician series, and then you have the Maestro series. Maestro series is the one that most people are very familiar with. You have the Maestro Mini all the way up to the Grand Maestro and varying different price points. Where the Deuce comes in is it's one of FatFreq's most affordable IEMs, coming at about $239 for 3.5 millimeter. 4.4 millimeter goes a little bit, not too much, but it is a price increase. It is a 2DD IEM. The previous Maestro Mini was 1 DD and 2 BAs, or 1 dynamic driver and 2 balanced armatures. The Deuce comes with a very nice substantial cable. It is a little bit microphonic, but that is just my experience with it. When you're actually listening to music, you don't notice it as much. But comes with a lot of generous accessories as well as an impedance adapter, and we'll talk about that later. But yeah, let's get into it. Let's do a quick unboxing video, and I'll kind of talk about the issue I had with the build quality as well as the remedy for it in that section. Hey guys, so outfit change, of course, and this is because this is being recorded after Dallas CanJam. Most of my video was actually recorded a few days before Dallas CanJam, and my intention was actually to finish video editing before I went out of town, and then kind of a pseudo wrench fell into my plans. HBB has released a video talking about not buying from FatFreq directly. Jay's Audio received his unit, and he had some issues with his order. So I wanted to kind of re-record my customer experience section, and I want to move that to the very front, or right after my general intro, as a way to hey, if you're not interested in this potential issue, you don't want to deal with the headache, I mean, you can do what a lot of people are doing right now, which is purchasing from Bloom or other retailers. But if this is a full disqualifier for you, this is the section you can pay attention to, and you can just ignore the Deuce for the rest of the time, or you can just click out. But to kind of go into it a little bit, HBB has released an updated video talking about not buying from FatFreq directly. He's very passionate about the project. He likes FatFreq, and I actually as well. I love FatFreq as a company. I've met them. Yao has been amazing to deal with, to talk with. Met Ivan. I met Des. They're very, very nice, genuine people. I'm not sure where the disconnect has happened, and the disconnect is what I mean. What I mean by that is there's a logistics issue that's going on right now. They're still trying to figure it out. I'm sure in a week or two, or whoever knows, they're going to come back out and say, hey, this is what went wrong, and this is what we're doing to address it. Because that is something that they probably should do. I'm not saying that they need to do it. I'm saying they should do it to kind of garner back some public press, or get the confidence back of your audiophile fans. So to go a bit more further into that, I am a huge FatFreq fan. I love the Maestro Mini. I listened to the Scarlet. I love the Grand Maestro Anniversary. I listened to the MSC. And I think it's a phenomenal company. Again, I really enjoy everything that they do. I enjoy them as people. Very good relationship with them. So when the Deuce was first kind of talked about, I was, of course, all in, completely, knowing the price point and everything. So after London Can Jam, I reached out and directly placed a pre-order. That was on the 23rd. So, of course, all the delays happened. SoCal Can Jam, I heard it, and it re-emphasized the point that I'm going to love this IEM. And my overall review for this is going to be, like, pretty high marks, because I love the Deuce. But I purchased it on the 23rd, and my unit officially shipped on the 3rd. I'm not sure if it's a logistics issue, what the actual cause is, but I didn't get an update for a few weeks. I didn't prod or anything like that, and I'm kind of a smaller reviewer. I've done some written reviews. I'm not gonna be like, oh, I am Make It Wayne, you need to do whatever I ask, but I would reach out and kind of get an update. And the shipping update happened, I think, on the 16th. From there, it kind of showed that they collected it, it was coming through, and it did come in. My unit came in, it did have the modular accessories that I'd asked for. So I had the 3.3, the 4.4, the swappable thing. It didn't come with the tips, it had the TRI Clarion, which whatever. The red tips, and I think that was kind of miscommunication about there was assumption that we're getting all these things, and the people that ordered the 1 to 150, I think just got the metal case, and everybody else was supposed to get other things. I'm not sure what the dropped ball is there. Probably needs to communicate that a little bit, but I'm sure they are very cognizant that this is going on and there are some complaints or concerns. So my unit came in, and I'm going to kind of talk about it in the unboxing section, but when I was trying to pry the left IEM out so I could take some photos, that's when a chip occurred. And I was not trying to wiggle it, I was trying to go perpendicular because I knew that it's a recessed thing, so I'm going to try to be more cognizant of trying to go up and down. That's what she said. And that ended up causing a small chip on the recessed wall. It does not affect how it sounds. It still sounds phenomenal, it still works. But that chip occurred, and I did reach out to Yao. It took a few days because I think it was going into the weekend, and I'm going to be cognizant that, hey, they're not going to respond to every single DM immediately. I'm not going to push it. I'm not going to be like, hey, you need to respond to me immediately. But I gave it some time, and he did respond back. What they've done is they've actually mailed me back the left IEM. So I have that replacement, and I've taken some photos of it and everything like that. And they actually included this card. And this card is a care tip for removing the 2-pin cable. And I'm going to drop an image here so you can kind of see it up close. And they have put this card in future shipments. So hopefully that's addressing that issue. It does not mean that they're addressing the full logistics issue, which is the biggest concern overall. And I do want to be accommodating the fact that they've sold a lot of units, probably more units than they anticipated. Numbers have been thrown out, at least 5,000, 6,000, somebody said 8,000, 10,000. I don't know how many they sold. They sold a lot. They made a lot of money off of it. They are still working to fulfill all those orders. Retailers have picked up a lot of stuff. The Hangout, Linsol, Bloom. And I think overall, they might be overwhelmed a little bit. They're still trying to meet their obligations because I know Yao had, and I think the FatFreq team had previously mentioned they're going to try to make every single Can Jam, and they have. Probably to the detriment of making sure everything's taken care of. And obviously you count for travel time, weekends, you count for the actual process of, accommodating everything and having a logistics company take care of everything. I'm sure there's some type of disconnect. We don't know the full story, I don't feel like. And unfortunately they are busy or they haven't been able to relay it in the proper manner, the proper channels. I hope they do that soon, and I hope that alleviates a lot of concerns. I don't think this is going to deter me from purchasing a future FatFreq IEM, and I'm not just saying that because I love them as a company or their music or their IEM sound. I'm saying that as somebody that's trying to support a smaller company that's obviously hit a very rough part of growing as a business. And I think like the upcoming releases that they have, especially the top secret quote-unquote project that I named the photos and I talked about, which is the planar set. Like, that's not going to stop me from probably purchasing that. I'm very hyped. I'm very excited about that one. It's going to do some special things. Will I be more cognizant or aware of? And do I think they should probably scale back on, like, hey, we'll include this pre-order bonus, or hey, the noise is we advertise this, so let's also develop an impedance adapter. Like, I think hopefully they've kind of learned from this experience, and especially with any potential price point that they hit with the planar set, I hope that they are like taking lessons from this and they are able to provide that service that I know that they're capable of, because I've experienced nothing but great customer service with them. So yeah, that's my my blurb. I think it's disappointing. I'm reading all the head-fi posts on hi-fi guides and stuff like that. I'm seeing a lot of the noise, and I think everybody has valid concerns. Will that influence me in my score? Yeah, I had to ding them. I'm not gonna get a pass to it. I will be cognizant that this is something you're going to experience with them potentially, and hopefully you don't experience that in the future. Hopefully anybody that does decide to purchase a future FatFreq item doesn't have the same experience. Hopefully this is just a huge speed bump and it caused a little bit of damage, but they can kind of recover from that and figure out stuff moving forward. And that's kind of like the only thing we can really do at this point, which is hope that, you know, if you're going to vote with your dollar and not buy anything from them ever again, that is totally within reason. That's something that's totally valid. There's no wrong answer in this, because it's all our own money, right? It's all something that we want to purchase, we are excited about, and unfortunately some people were burned. A lot of people were burned, it feels like. But, you know, I think the IEM is fantastic. I would rep it or recommend it just because I love the sound it produces. And if you're able to, like, overlook that, so to speak, or you don't have that same experience, you got your item and everything's fine, I mean, fantastic. And if you're in that boat that's still waiting, and hopefully you're able to look at it from an angle of, hey, it's coming in, it's finally coming in, hopefully this is going to be taken care of. And I really hope that this is just like a small speed bump and they've learned their lesson and everything can kind of go forward. The noise is there, it's all valid. It's a lot of concerns. I was taken care of. You may not be. Some other people may not be. Some people may be fine. They got their unit and they're done. Like, everybody's experience is going to be different. I just want to be transparent about what my experience was. And I was taken care of, not necessarily the manner I was hoping, but I was, and they provided the updated IEM. I now have an extra left one with a little bit chipped on it, and I'm just going to use it as a trophy, I guess, or I don't know. I can't just give it away because you're not going to be only like one IEM in, but I think that I can continue to support them in that manner of like, hey, I love what they do. I love what they're capable of. Now, how can they meet that going forward? So yeah, that's my updated customer experience side. Okay, so this is going to be kind of a unboxing video experience of what you would expect if you're opening the Deuce up brand new. I've actually already opened it, I've already listened to it just to make sure everything was good, just because I was kind of concerned. So yeah, this is the Deuce. Comes in a very nice box. It is very substantial because this is a metal case that's inside of it. And I always want to make sure everything sounds good before I, you know, unbox everything or do a video on this, but I might do a full unboxing experience of the Awful Explorers 5+2, but that's a different video. So this is the card it comes with that says welcome to the family, and you can see my name is engraved on there for my logo, or whatever you call it, the Maker Lane. Let's open it up. Very nice metal case. Get the gorgeous IEMs. handful of other things, so put that there. So these come with the TRI Clarion tips. I did not get the red tips. I don't know how much better they are. The TRI Clarion tips, I'm not a big fan of them, just because I think they kind of take away from the bass a little bit. But that is a set of tips that comes with it. I also did get the 4.4 adapter, the impedance adapter. Works with the blood cable, matches the aesthetic. This is the 3.5mm impedance adapter. And I did get the modular cable as well, so you can see it's the 2.5, and this is the 4.4. And then a small little cleaning tool in there. Put that off to the side. So to show off the IEMs, you can kind of see they're very gorgeous, very nice looking shells. And I love the aesthetic with the red on black. And then you can see the logos of FatFreq on there as kind of a red. This is the other side with HBB's logo on there. And in fact, I'm going to hit us with a little bit of mood lighting on here. Boom, mood lighting. I think the set's honestly gorgeous. Let's cycle back. There we go. Okay, so I'm going to show off how the modular cable works. You may not have this. I did get this, so it works pretty easily. Line it up. Got my glove kind of locked in there. Shout out to HBB because I actually follow his example in a way, because I don't think you need to see my hands on everything. You see it probably in my other parts. You don't need to see it up close and personal. But yeah, that's what the Deuce looks like. That's the general unboxing. I'm going to talk a few things about the fit. So here's my handy dandy measurement tool. And you can kind of see the nozzle's a big boy. This is a big nozzle. The actual IEM fits pretty well in the ear. It has a good curve right here, but the nozzle is actually kind of big. And you can kind of see it is a 6.9 on the lip, on the fattest part. The fattest part of the FatFreq. Nice. And very mature. So yeah, you get a pretty chunky nozzle, and what that means is that you're gonna have to be cognizant of the type of tips that you use for it. So I have a handful of tips, and some of these tips won't necessarily work. I like to use the Final Type E Clear. You can kind of see it's like a smaller, longer nozzle, and it doesn't necessarily work for these. It doesn't fit, but something like the Duno SNS, they do. They actually help, and they provide a little bit of a more of a soundstage increase, and feels like the mid bass is emphasized a little bit more. So I really like those tips on these nozzles. It's kind of chunky, the nozzle lip that is. So here's the other thing about the build. Now I think the build quality is very good for the most part. The issue that people have been having, and I'm kind of talking about in other sections of my video, is that these are recessed 2-pin, and this is the right IEM for me. You can kind of see, I'm going to go perpendicular, pulls out perfectly fine, no issues. You can kind of see that recessed 2-pin aspect to it. So that IEM came off relatively easy. Didn't have to wiggle it, nothing like that at all. The left IEM, and you've already probably heard me talking about it, but the left IEM, I do have an issue. And you can kind of see there's a little bit of a white spot with the recessed 2-pin. That's because there's a chip. And that chip occurred when I was trying to pull this left IEM out. Now, I'm going to kind of show how I was trying to do it. I'm trying to go perpendicular. I'm trying to go straight up and down. And you can kind of see it slowly coming out. Not trying to wiggle it at all. And there, it's out. But that part did chip. That was from a previous attempt. Doesn't take away from the actual sound. I can still hear everything perfectly fine. But that is something to be cognizant of. When you unplug the cable, you have to be very careful because it is very tight. You do not want to wiggle it at all. You want to pull up and down. I think putting proper force on both sides and then slowly going in and out, that's what she said, going in and out works the best and helps prevent that like potential for you to clip the side when you're wiggling it. So something to be cognizant of. The build quality, I think for the most part, is very good, except for the recessed 2-pin section. I get why what they're going for. I get why they did it. It's to help protect the actual cable itself. It's from this section. But I do think there was kind of a missed opportunity there, and I do think that, you know, my unit had issues. I got it returned, or I got a replacement. JTIS had his issue that has happened to several people. Some people actually pulled out part of the 2-pin section, the connector, and something to be careful of. For me, this worked. I did get a replacement unit. This is another left unit. This one actually isn't as tight, not nearly as much as that one was. Still something to be cognizant of. I will probably plug the cable in and leave it there forever. Just my personal take. With that replacement unit, I did get a card that kind of talks about the way to do it. Again, I will link this, but you know, that is the general experience of build quality. I think it's built very well, except for that 2-pin section. Be very careful when you're pulling it out. I am so mature for this. Alright, so that's the general unboxing, the build quality. Fit, again, be cognizant of what type of tips you're using. It is a very big nozzle, it's 6.9 millimeters, so one of the bigger ones I put in my ear hole, and yeah, be careful about that. So how does the Deuce sound? In one word, bassy. That's it. That's the end of the video. Thank you for watching, and like and subscribe. We're out. But the Deuce is a bassy all-rounder. That's the best way I would describe it. And the reason why I would say it's a bassy all-rounder is it gives you phenomenal bass performance, but it also gives you very good mid-range performance with details, female vocals, and very good treble extension to help balance it out. You're not going to be looking at a technical monster. It's not going to give you the same technical prowess as like a Pilgrim or a Hype series would. But I think it's a very good balance between very bassy set, good musical tone and playback, as well as really good technical performance that kind of puts in that same ballpoint range of its competitors. It works very well for my library, and it's easily going to be one of my favorite, like in that price bracket and just in general as a bassy all-rounder. So to talk about the bass is sub-bass focused. It's very deep. You get thunderous notes. It's very rumbly, like a subwoofer quality. You get a lot of bass quantity and quality. I think it's very detailed from top to bottom for the bass notes. The mid bass is going to come off as like a sharp decline, kind of like it's intentionally like shelved, and that is to prevent any mid bass bleed. I think that works really well for instrument playback in the mid range. Some people might prefer like more mid bass, and if that's the case, you could always try to EQ it, or this may not be necessarily the full set for you, like something like the 7Hz 5 where it is more like mid bass focused. That might be better to your ears. To mine, I really enjoy the bass performance for the Deuce. It's very deep, and the Bass Cannon 2.0 technology, where it kind of rumbles and vibrates in your ear a little bit, I think brings it back in a way to give you that energy and that impact and punchiness So you're not missing that to my ears and to how I'm listening to my music. It works very well for my library, and it's one of the standouts for the Deuce. So to talk about the mid-range, the female vocals are where it shines the most, in my opinion, as well as instrument playback. The instruments come off as very detailed, guitar, piano. Female vocals come off as very clear, crisp, concise. The proper amount of like airiness that you'd expect from your playback. I don't usually like to talk about specific tracks and go, oh yeah, this track is doing this to my ears for this IEM, but you know, if you listen to a lot of like female vocal oriented stuff like Fleetwood Mac or Florence and the Machine, Dog Days Are Over comes off as perfectly elevated and crisp for female vocals without any form of sibilance. It's not to the point where it's harsh or shouty. It's very well done. I think the only nitpick I would have is that because there is that mid-bass scoop to prevent the bleed, sometimes the male vocals come off as a little bit recessed. It's kind of in the back of the track, it feels like. You can offset it a little bit by bumping up the volume for the Deuce, but then you get into this entire thing where everything else is like way bigger sounding and you're just bringing the vocals just a little bit more forward, but everything else is more elevated. It doesn't happen to a lot of tracks. It's just certain tracks I've noticed where the female or the male vocals will come off as a little bit more recessed and not thin, because there's a lot of good note weight in the mid-range performance, so everything's very satisfying. That kind of brings it back a little bit, but my only nitpick really would be is I wish there was a little bit more mid, maybe just a smidge more mid-bass to kind of go over to the lower mid-range to help the male vocals come off as more full and lush. But for the most part, the mid-range performance is excellent. Don't let my nitpick tell you that, oh yeah, it's terrible for male vocals. It does very well. I just wish it was just a little bit more richer sounding. That's just to my ears specifically and my library. With a lot of rock music that sometimes I feel like it's a little bit recessed, but you can bring it up or you can EQ it. It's very flexible and it takes to EQ very well. So talking about the treble, it's very clean, very smooth. It's to that point where it might be the proper balance between being too smooth or too like elevated or energetic. It doesn't come off as that, and even when you listen to it at higher volumes, it's still very smooth sounding. It's very clean. There's no like sibilance, there's no harshness when you elevate it up in the volume. I think it comes off as very detailed. It could be a little bit harsh at times, but it comes through very well balanced with the bass, and I don't think you're going to miss anything on the treble. It's very well extended. It's not the best treble I've ever heard, and it's not the most energetic set, but it provides that good balance for the music, and especially, you know, with the fact that you can listen to it at higher volumes before it will start like to have a little bit of that shimmer at the end of the notes, and where you can hear a little bit of harshness, you can get really loud before that kicks in. And that's something I noticed when I would, you know, kind of turn up the volume so I could get more of that mid-range for male vocals in. You know, I would notice the sub bass is literally rattling my head, but then the treble would be just a little bit spicy. But for the most part, for general listening, it's not gonna come across as like harsh or sharp or anything like that. It's very relaxed, very smooth until you really amp up the volume. So technical performance, when I talk about technical performance, I'm talking about like separation of instruments, imaging, the detail, the soundstage. You know, overall timbre for this is phenomenal. The detail and instrument separation and imaging is all very well done. You know, when you're listening to a track where you expect something to be on the left side, right side, it's exactly there. Really highly recommend listening to the same stuff that you usually would with the Deuce to kind of get the idea that it does perform very well on imaging. I think my only nitpick really comes down to the soundstage. I do feel like because the male vocals are recessed a little bit, there's kind of almost like a dome type of like soundstage to you. So, you know, everything comes off as very well separated, but because the, you know, overall the soundstage isn't that the widest sounding at all, So there are times where when it's like the recessed male vocals happen, it feels almost like an oval shape where it's like, okay, everything's kind of like definitely wide, but then, you know, the mid-range is right there and right in front of you, and you, or way too far back, and everything else is closer. Like, it kind of does that. So that's probably my only nitpick. It doesn't happen very often. Certain tracks will do it, like certain rock songs. I notice it with like some Johnny Cash or some AC/DC. Sometimes I kind of put it back a little bit. More of the classical rock type of sound. But for the most part, the detailing and imaging is phenomenal, top notch. It's well above average for technical performance. Just the soundstage is probably my only nitpick, but that's me trying to find something negative to say. Really, at the end of the day, it sounds very good, and it provides a good technical performance to match the musical and the sub-bassy fun of the Deuce. Like, it's very well controlled, and it feels very in line. So, to talk about other things to be aware of, source, this is a harder to drive set. Like, you're gonna have to bump up the volume just a little bit. Not to the point where it's like, oh, you're trying to listen to a binary Dynaquattro or something like that, where you have to like have a nuclear reactor or something. It just does require a little bit more of a boost to the volume. You are rewarded for that. They are very power hungry. They love power. I was using it with my Abigail Pro, and that was like, I mean, it got listenable, but I felt like I was missing a lot. Bumping up to the K11 R2R, which I'm currently testing, as well as my JDS Element 3. That provided the perfect amount of power that really opened it up and made it feel like I was listening to the Deuce how it's meant to be listened to. I don't have a current dongle DAC, so I can't really comment on that part. It is currently on loan, but for the most part, on a desktop solution or something that provides a lot of power, I think you'll be very happy with the Deuce. Volume listening, I genuinely prefer to listen to it at that moderate high volume. At moderate, there are a lot more times where I feel like the recessed male vocal happens. Sub-bass is very good overall, even at moderate to high volume listening. But when you're listening to like a classic rock song or even modern rock song or anything like with a lot of emphasis on the male vocals, I feel like that becomes recessed a little bit to the point where it's distracting, and you gotta like really amp up the volume a little bit to like get that back, and then, you know, it opens back up. There is that certain range, so I wouldn't say like it's like the Explorer where you could really amp that up and there's no harshness. Like, you're gonna want to do more moderate high volume listening, and that's the sweet spot. So here's my updated conclusion. Overall, I still give this a 4.5 out of 5. Or I think I'm rounding that up a little bit. It's just over that threshold where I can round it up without feeling like I'm being biased. But I am biased, obviously, because I do like the company. I think the value is great at $230 something, $40 something. I think the accessories are good. I think the cable is a little bit microphonic at times, and unfortunately, I probably won't remove the cable ever again, just because I don't want to accidentally have something shift a little bit and then break. I do think that you get phenomenal sound. I think you get a great bassy all-rounder. It fits my catalog, it fits my music. I love what it does. I could use a little bit more, I could nitpick all day and go, hey, I could use a little bit more here, use a little bit more there. But at the end of the day, like, it's still a phenomenal IEM. It sounds great. The sub bass is deep, the mid bass is kind of executed through that shell that rumbles a little bit to my ears. I feel that energy, and that's all I could really ask for. The mids are very well done, it's very detailed, the treble is very smooth to my ears. I don't have any issues with how it sounds. Can I EQ like a $30 set to get to that same point? Probably. Is it going to be the same IEM though? No. And plug and play, this is the best way to get a bassy all-rounder without playing with EQ or having a profile set up or anything. So, if you can kind of overlook the stuff that's going on, if you can like purchase it right now on Bloom or Linsol or anything like that, you're gonna get a great IEM. If you order directly from FatFreq, you might have a different experience. And if you do have a chip, what I highly recommend is reaching out to the retailer that you purchased from. Since I bought mine directly from FatFreq, I messaged them directly. The arrangements that retailers may have might be different, so if you have something like that with the build quality or some type of issue with that, I highly recommend reaching out directly to your retailer and seeing if that's something that's arranged that way, or if you don't get a response or you don't get a proper response, then reach out to FatFreq, because they will get to you, they will try to help you. It may take a little bit of time to get that full response, but my experience with them has been phenomenal, and I think they try to take care of everybody that they can. Things get lost, or there's so many emails. I mean, if you think about how many orders they have and how many people might be reaching out, not just people making comments on Head-Fi or Hi-Fi guides, but overall, how many people everywhere. You know, they might be overwhelmed a little bit. I want to be cognizant, and I want to give them some accommodations in my thoughts about that, but overall, if you can kind of look past that, you have a great IEM. HBB and FatFreq did a great job of tuning this IEM. I think it sounds phenomenal. You just have to look past that part, and if you can, you're getting good value, you're getting good thing. But you know, that's kind of where it stands right now. Overall, 4.5. That's 4.5 U's for this is good, or good, and yeah. I'm Maker Wayne, signing out.